pick on virtualization as an area. Out of the core things that are really at a technical level, virtualization is maybe one of the hottest ones at the moment. We'll also go through a major price destabilization. So if you think of the market was once owned by VMware, typical price point, £300–400 for a license. Microsoft, during the last 8 months, introduced Hyper-V. It's part of their operating system that brings the price point down to $18. $300 to $400 down to $18. That's going to cause a major market destabilization. At the same time, you've had the entry of Oracle, Sun, Novell, Citrix-based solutions coming through with Zen as the sort of core underneath that. A market was once owned by VMware, who've created it on their own, is going to be much more competitive. It's also one that can generate shorter-term returns for a lot of businesses. So I've not seen anyone yet cancel a virtualization project. If someone can tell me one, I'm glad to know, but I haven't seen one cancelled yet, because they typically have got very short payback times. If nothing else, the cost of power. So one of my customers looked at recently, we did a bit of consulting work to look at their electricity savings only. When they went from, it's about 1,000 desktops they had, they were looking to go from thick client desktops, everything running on the desktop, to application streaming, application level virtualization. Based on that, and the change in the power consumption actually on the device itself that you could get away with thinner clients, we reckon they could save in the first year alone £78,000 in electricity. Never mind any of the management savings or the software costs, just the pure power was 78 grand. There's one of the data center customers I've got. They've got 4 large server halls, several thousand servers across it. Again, a question on guesses. What percentage of their OPEX is electricity? 60 to 70% of the OPEX is electricity. Now, for anyone who's not in the data center business, that comes as a horrific shock, because they think buying servers. Actually, this data center company gets servers as part of their OPEX. Servers are not part of their CapEx structure either. So, cost of servers is minuscule compared with the cost of juice. That horrifies most people who are not in the data center business. So virtualization helps in some of these. So these are some of the technology ones. So let me go on to forecasts. So overall market forecast. The beige lines are total market size in the UK. The red lines, rate of growth. Software and IT services. So that's core software products, but also things like outsourcing, consulting services, infrastructure services, and BPO. The rate of growth in the market is coming down quite quickly. But let me drill into that in a bit more detail. So public sector, we've looked to be the saviour of the UK market for some time. Large public sector projects. We might just squeak some of that this year, but there is a big risk that some of the major public sector IT projects will either be cancelled, delayed, or dramatically downscaled. So that big banker we had there of public sector to protect our revenue base, we think is going to go away pretty quickly. So, and anyone who's actually in public sector who sits there saying, it'll never happen to us, public sector is always safe, it's no longer just a safe place to be. Just as we've seen redundancies in the banking sector, the retail sector, and the tech sector, I wouldn't be at all surprised if we saw redundancies in the public sector marketplace now. So, drill down a bit more. Software. You'll see a balance in the forecast here. The software parts are still relatively strong. The services parts are the ones that are most challenged. Software forecast. You'll see revenue growth in infrastructure software, so operating systems, databases type things. Still have a relatively strong area, and that continuing to grow as people spend to save on the cost of purely running the infrastructure. So virtualization licenses, despite the price pressure on it, are still shifting off the shelves. Operating system spend still carrying on. Information management, so things like the content management systems, etc. Looking at the values on the right-hand axis, you see we think that's still a marketplace that's continuing to grow, but at a higher rate than pure system infrastructure. As the masses of data that comes out of the internet increase hugely, the need to manage that data, particularly unstructured document-related content, is just continuing to grow. Applications. 2009's the biggest drop for applications. Typically in a recession, business application projects get canned before technology ones, just because the time to cash positive on the investment's a bit longer. We're seeing that picking back up in 2010. So 2009 will be a weak year for an applications business. It will start coming out. I reckon December through February is about the time when I'm going to sort of look at the green shoots coming back through there. Ask me in a fortnight and it might be different, but that's the current view. I'd rather give you an honest feeling as to what it is now than try and sit firmly on the fence, because where that fence post goes is just really uncomfortable.
Sorry, is that even with an increasing OpEx model for applications?
Yeah. So I've got some forecasts on, this is software only, I've got some application-led outsourcing forecasts later on, which is it's less pretty. So infrastructure services, running networks, desktop support type things. Services market in the UK is not great for that. It's not to say you can't make money at it, but these are sort of average figures that we see across. So some will be well below this and some will be above it. Seeing the rate of growth in infrastructure services coming down. I think I said last year that I really wouldn't particularly want to focus just on infrastructure services at the moment. Sorry, let me go back up. You see, the yellow bit at the top is the public sector part, and the blue-grey part is the commercial sector. Now, there's relatively equal growth between those two. So it's not like the public sector will get us out of jail here. Project services, so doing consulting jobs. Yeah. A couple of reasons for this. Large-scale 3-year program transformation jobs that are limited in number at the moment. If they are, they've probably been cancelled. Equally, as the adoption of software as a service and related technologies continues, there are less projects around those. So if you do, say, a Salesforce.com implementation, you switch it on and you start using it. You don't do a set of requirements definition, set of design principles, switch it on, do some configuration, do some testing, data migration. That as a project doesn't exist anymore. You just switch it on and you start fiddling about with it. So the demand for consultancy services around those is much reduced to below zero growth. So this is the first chart that I'm presenting, what I've heard called negative growth. I first heard an Oracle salesperson describe negative growth in his achievements. And it took me a while to figure out he meant his numbers had gone down. Negative growth. So more IT services forecast. So application-led outsourcing has got a pretty steep graph going down. There's a lot of heat coming back out of that application-led outsourcing market. So you see from our forecast here that shifting technology is still working well. The adoption and services on that are taking much more of a caning in the current marketplace. And again, some could debate this, saying, well, my services business is doing pretty well. Not everyone is. And good luck to you if it is doing well. I think there is money to be made, but on average, the economy is coming out of it.